Welcome to Portal Epic Edition, where you're forced to fight for your life in every way imaginable. This is a mod for Portal that makes the game significantly harder, and I'm about to play through it. In this video, we'll be talking about each individual chamber within the main game and not the advanced chambers, which will have their own video. There will be a label on screen for each chamber, as well as some extra stuff towards the end. With all that out of the way, let's begin. Right off the bat, this mod shows how difficult it is. Hell, you can't even get out of bed before it's breaking one of the glass walls so you can get out. Thankfully for this chamber, the only thing that's different are all the rocket turrets everywhere. That might sound a little odd, but trust me, later on, there's a lot more going on. To complete this one, all we have to do is put the cube on the button and get to the elevator. Chamber 01 is much the same, except with this one, it's made easier with all the rocket turrets. Now, instead of needing to wait for the portal to do its thing, you just have to wait for the glass to be broken, then finish the level as normal. In this level, more things start to take place. For one, we're given a hazardous environment suit, or HEV suit for short. This allows us to see our health. On top of that, we're given 3 cubes and are required to use them to climb over this wall rather than waiting for a portal. Let me just say, trying to place these cubes down correctly and jumping on them to jump over the wall without dying is quite the feat. When we make it over, rather than being given a portal gun, we're given a shotgun. We then need to use the shotgun to kill enemies, and then use another 2 cubes to climb up to get to the elevator. If this seems overcomplicated, it's because it is, and it will become a running theme with this mod. Alright, this is when the mod really starts to show its ugly side. In the base game, this is one of the easiest chambers in the game. Here, almost every wall is lined with rocket turrets, with lines of normal turrets sprinkled throughout. The amount of time it took me to get halfway through this chamber was almost unbearable. But once we got there, we were greeted with the portal gun. And in case you were wondering, no, it doesn't make it easier, and in fact, makes it harder. For the next part, we have to put a portal by the elevator, then run across to get into this portal. Except there's a line of turrets in front of the elevator that we have to trigger and then wait for them to forget us, and then we can run across. Also, as a quick reminder, there's rocket turrets everywhere. After about 10 minutes of trying, I finally made it. This chamber is essentially the same, but with rocket turrets and these little man-slicers. The only real thing of note is that at the end, we get the crowbar. This chamber really takes it up a notch. Along with all the rocket turrets being around, there is only 1 cube in the first room, so this makes getting into the second room a lot more difficult. I actually had to stand on the button and place the blue portal in the second room, then climb my way up to the orange portal to get into the room. Pretty difficult, but once I was there, the door automatically opened. Now comes the second hard part. I needed to place a portal high up in the second room, then climb back up to the orange portal in the first room again, just to get to the elevator. Also, there's a bunch of cubes in the second room, but they were placed down in such a way that I can't pick them up. After agonizingly dying over and over just trying to climb up to the orange portal, I eventually made it through. Chamber 06 again really wasn't much of note and was essentially the same as the base game, just with a bunch of rocket turrets. Just like the last one, this chamber is essentially the same as the base game version, just with more obstacles. One cool thing is that instead of just rocket turrets, there's also these antlions. In this chamber, we're introduced to barnacles as well as given the magnum. These barnacles aren't too bad, but anything that touches them, they'll pull up. This includes energy pellets. Also, where the orange portal is, there's no longer a platform for you to stand on. There is a tiny ledge, but for the most part, there's nothing there. I found that while the barnacles could pick up energy pellets, there was a chance that they wouldn't, so for this one, I would just walk back and forth on this little catwalk and just wait for one to eventually make it. Once that was all said and done, I would place a blue portal next to this railing, and then do a portal stand on that tiny ledge in front of the orange portal to land onto the platform. Once on the platform, I would move back and forth, making sure that the barnacles ahead of me were dead to avoid being pulled up by them or shot by the rockets as I made my way to the elevator. Just in case you couldn't tell, this chamber is themed around the G-Man. While at first I thought it was just for aesthetics, I later realized it made this hard chamber even harder. To beat this one, you have to complete it as you would in the base game, except now there's nowhere to place a portal. So in order to beat this one, you have to go and grab the cube, walk up this pipe to portal into the next room to get the cube in there, go through the portal and place the cube on the button to get to the elevator, all while dodging rockets being shot your way. Oh, and also there's barnacles everywhere that add to the chaos. This chamber also had a theme, and that theme was turrets and gravity gun. This level is usually split up into 3 sections. The first one is quite easy to get past, being mostly normal with a couple rocket turrets. The second part, however, I had to build a giant staircase using the gravity gun and all of these cubes while being shot at by turrets. While not overly difficult, the hitboxes on the cube made this more than annoying. The third part is turret galore. It's mostly unchanged, except for the fact that there's an ungodly amount of both rocket and normal turrets. To get past this, I had to use the gravity gun to pick up and throw cubes at the turrets, making sure to knock them down. Even after all of that, I still needed to create a staircase with the cubes to get to the final section where I could get into the elevator. The fact that this chamber alone didn't give me any nightmares is astounding in of itself. This chamber is really good because we finally get the orange portal gun. Apart from that, it's kinda just the same with a lot of rocket turrets. It is made easier by them because they break the glass, but apart from that, it's pretty unnoteworthy. Rocket Turrets Galore Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's really all I gotta say about this one. There is another major change though, and that's the platform you normally fall onto to be launched through is significantly smaller and off in the corner. All this means is that you have to have a bit of a running jump to be launched. One thing that I did notice with this chamber though is that the hitboxes on the rocket turrets is sometimes massive. So big in fact that there'd be times I'd misplace a portal or jump wrong thanks to hitting one of them. Unlike the last several chambers, this one is more interesting than it is difficult. You're not meant to go through this chamber normally. Instead, you're supposed to make your way through the observation room and go on a side path. In the side path, there is enemies that you have to fight through before being able to make it to the actual exit. But with the guns and crowbar that I've obtained this far, it's really not all that difficult, but it was interesting. Chamber 14 really sucks. This isn't due to rocket turrets or any hard puzzle, it's due to a very specific jump you have to make to get up to the elevator. This jump is the only way to progress through the level, and apart from some advanced levels, which will be in its own video, this was easily one of the most annoying levels to play through. Once again, this chamber is mostly unchanged apart from the addition of far too many rocket turrets. Apart from needing to consistently be moving, otherwise I'd die, there wasn't much challenge to this one. At this point in the mod, I had gotten pretty accustomed to moving around to prevent myself from getting hurt, so this was nothing new. I even managed to skip most of the chamber with some well-placed portals. Thankfully, unlike the last one, this one was pretty brutal. You can't even get into the chamber itself without doing a portal bump. Once I did get into the main chamber, not only is there turrets and rocket turrets everywhere, but there's also these special Half-Life turrets as well. If you don't know, these ones don't die after you knock them over, so if they happen to get back up, they will continue to shoot. On top of that, there is an ungodly amount of normal turrets thrown everywhere in this chamber. I'm not kidding when I tell you, I spent close to 10 minutes just getting through this chamber, and that was without dying. Chamber 17 immediately starts off with a jump that looks impossible. It's not, but it has to be done with the gravity gun and done well. Also, there's barnacles everywhere in this level. Both hallways are full of them and the main hub has them darted around. Apart from these things being added, the level is mostly unchanged. Thankfully, because trying to figure out the new changed puzzle on top of dealing with everything would have been painfully bad. Chamber 18 is once again mostly unchanged. The one main difference here is on top of having rocket turrets and barnacles everywhere, there's also zombies. One unique thing is you no longer have to go into the big room to get the cube anymore. Instead, there's a cube nicely placed right by the button. As for the second part of the level, it's much the same. There is the usual god-awful amount of rocket turrets, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you're going through portals too fast for them to properly shoot at you. The only actual annoying thing is this line of barnacles as you leave the final portal. This chamber starts off with everything on fire, but for whatever reason, the fire doesn't hurt you, and it's nothing too bad. There is one spot, however, with a lot of energy pellets bouncing back and forth between two walls. I actually had to use the gravity gun and pull each and every one of them and shoot them off to the side so I wouldn't immediately die. Then, as I'm being lowered into the incineration pit, I notice there's nowhere to place a portal. I've become stuck on the platform, and as it's lowered down into the fire, I die. After dying, I'm presented with the bad ending screen. So after finding out that that was the bad ending, I went back to Chamber 19 to try and find a way to get the good ending. Remember back in Chamber 13 when I had to go into the observation room to get to the secret path? Same thing here, except this time it leads me down a long corridor where I lose all of my gear. Thankfully, I do get my portal and gravity guns back, but all of my other guns are now gone. After a bit more walking, I make it into the GLaDOS boss fight. At first, everything seems normal. The only thing out of place is a barnacle above the incineration pit and the button being moved to on top of the area it is normally. That is, until you look at GLaDOS and notice the horror of how many cores are on her. After destroying the first core, all of the rocket turrets turn on, and a 2-minute countdown is started. For this first phase, and yes, I do mean first, all you have to do is destroy the normal 3 cores. After doing that, however, all hell breaks loose. For her second phase, the timer is set to 6 minutes, fire starts spewing out of the vents on the wall, and every time GLaDOS is hurt, she throws you and everything on the ground into the air for a few seconds. Also, there's now flying rocket turrets that hunt you down. I don't remember exactly, but I think there were around a dozen cores that you have to knock off of her and incinerate before the timer hits 0 to win the fight. It's hard for me to put into words how chaotic this was. Not only did I have to keep moving around to prevent myself from getting killed, but I also had to stand by GLaDOS in order for the rockets to hit her to get the cores off. Then, once I got 1 or 2 of them off, I'd have to go up to the button, press it, and then place portals to get them into the incinerator. I had to do this multiple times where everything in the room was shooting at me. After many deaths and retries, GLaDOS finally goes down and we are presented with the Portal Epic Edition Good Ending. So what are my thoughts on the mod? While it was super difficult, after a while it got insanely fun to play through. Dodging and weaving around all the rockets flying at me left me feeling almost intoxicated from the thrill. Constantly fighting for my life led to a real sense of accomplishment when I finally got through tough sections. Now, while this was only the main game, I did play through all the advanced chambers. The only thing within the mod that I didn't complete was the second campaign. This was due to both Konclan and Permatemp, 2 individuals who helped out on the mod, telling me it was best to wait for the update to play through the second campaign. Also, huge shout out to them for helping me and giving me helpful insight towards the end of the stream, especially with the advanced chambers. While the advanced chambers will be in another video, that's going to be it for this one. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because I am trying to get to 1K subscribers by the end of the month, and that really helps out the video. Thank you, and have a good one.